Morning Majority on 630 WMAL.
7:07 on a Monday morning. This is the Morning Majority. Brian Eamon, Mary Walter with you. Pleased to be joined, as always, on a Monday morning at 7 o'clock by Joe Digenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia and a good friend of the program, our legal expert. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
All right, we battered around this the burning of the Koran and the problems that it's causing in Afghanistan. Obviously, General David Petraeus didn't want this to happen. He's upset about it. Lindsey Graham was on Face the Nation this weekend, and he said, essentially, freedom of speech is all fine and dandy, but sometimes we have to limit freedom of speech, especially when we're at war. We did this apparently in World War II, something we maybe need to think about. Now, he wasn't saying we need to pass a law right away. But I'm curious, is there anything you can do about this, about burning Koran and the problems that it causes for soldiers overseas, or you just throw up your hands and say, hey, it's part of living in America, especially in 2011?
There's nothing you can do about this. The modern First Amendment law would strictly prohibit this. There would be no way that Congress could pass a law limiting people's ability to object to the enemy, to object to the war, to support our troops, or to say anything they wanted to about the Koran. And the reason is very simple. The First Amendment cannot prohibit political speech. It's the most important protected speech in the First Amendment. And this is political speech. I mean, this is exactly what we said we weren't going to do after 9/11, which is allow the terrorists to change our behavior. And by the way, what matters here is not the burning of the Koran. It's that a bunch of crazy people went over and killed 7 innocent UN workers, including 4 Nepalese soldiers who were guarding the UN mission. The crazies here are over there, not here. I mean, I might not like this reverend burning the Koran, but that is an absolutely protected act of free speech, just as was the cartoon by the Danish cartoonist who had a fatwa put out against him. The nuts in the Islamic community who are radical terrorists want us to shut up. As part of responding to that, we have to accept some unpleasant and unacceptable speech, which is protected by the First Amendment.
But is it true that we did limit freedom of speech in previous wars? I
have no idea what Lindsey Graham is talking about. I need an example. We had loose lips sink ships, which was an admonition to people to be very careful about what they talked about when they were working in war plants and in government agencies. I know of no restrictions other than troop movements, which have always been restricted. Newspapers had to pre-clear any stories from the war zone. They were all clear. In other words, in World War II, reporters didn't file stories the way they did today because there weren't satellites, so there was no radio from the war zone. You had to get permission to broadcast and write, but that was in the war zone. We would do that today, and we have done that today. Remember when Geraldo Rivera got criticized for drawing the placement of the troops in the sand?
His quote was, we limit free speech in time of war if you are inspiring the enemy. That was
he's talking about Tokyo Rose and all that nonsense. She was overseas.
But didn't Lincoln during the Civil War, didn't he close down some newspapers?
Habeas corpus.
Listen, Lincoln's my guy. He suspended the writ of habeas corpus.
Right.
You could do all kinds of things before the modern interpretations of the First Amendment. But with where the First Amendment is today in the pantheon of constitutional freedoms, there's no way you can limit free speech except limit the speech of government officials who have access to classified information.
Well, I like that one, limiting the speech of public officials. Joe, let's go to a little argument that Brian and I were having during the break here about.
Are you two having another chat?
It's not that bad.
No. It's just that he's once again he's wrong. In Wisconsin, the unions there have stepped up their campaign here to get this law overturned, and they are now sending out letters to business owners saying that you have chosen not to support public workers' rights in Wisconsin because they want them to put signs in their windows that say this business supports workers' rights. And they say that if you don't do so, we have no choice but to do a public boycott of your business, and neutral means no to them. People are saying that this may be illegal, and we were trying to figure out why it's illegal.
It's illegal because it's criminal extortion.
That's what I said.
This is an actual crime, and if the U.S. attorney in Wisconsin is not all over this like a cheap suit, it'll be because he or she is a Democrat. This is absolutely outrageous. Not only that, we just finished talking about the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
These businesses made a choice. They said, we do not wish to speak that phrase. We don't want to use those words in our business. The union is saying, you must speak these words or we will boycott you. That is an illegal boycott. The state attorney, the U.S. attorney, ought to be going in the court, getting an injunction against the letter itself is a basis for a federal injunction. In addition, it is a federal crime, what they are doing. This is criminal extortion. All over the block, no doubt, absolutely illegal activity. We will see whether or not the Justice Department takes this on and issues a warning to this union.
The DOJ, Eric Holder's not going to take this on.
Is it illegal because it's a union? I mean, what if it was a group that wanted to boycott, I don't know, I'm just making this up, CBS because they won't we're going to take Charlie Sheen back? I mean, is it illegal only because it's the union?
It is. The answer to that is, one part of it is yes, because they are a union and because they have collective bargaining rights and other things. They could go to if they were working for one of these businesses, but they're not because they're government employees. They actually have the power of the government behind them. That's another reason why this is theoretically illegal. With regard to a Charlie Sheen thing where they would boycott CBS, any group of private citizens can boycott anything they want. But if they started to threaten CBS, saying you must run this show, you have to be very careful about this stuff. You're not allowed to threaten people, and you can threaten economic harm under certain circumstances to gain certain rights. This is not one of them. These are business interests. These people have the right to run a business. They are not required under the law, as part of being able to run a business in Wisconsin, to say whatever unions want them to say. And the unions are demanding it, and they're saying, because you refuse to run our sign, we're going to boycott your business. That's illegal.
Now, if the Attorney General doesn't go after them because he's a Democrat or for whatever reason he or she chooses not to, do you really think that Eric Holder's Department of Justice will go after them? Come on.
I don't know. Eric and his folks make very much of their desire to be fair and enforce the law equally, and I believe them. I mean, I think that's what they want to do. The issue here is, this is a major constituency of the Democratic Party,
right.
Public employees unions. As you know, practically nobody in the private sector is organized in the United States under labor unions. Practically everybody in the public sector is organized under unions. This is a very powerful force. You will recall they did all this demonstrating in Montgomery County against this Bank of America guy, went onto his lawn.
Right.
They did so with the complicity of the D.C. and Montgomery County police, in violation of the laws of both jurisdictions. Nobody was ever held accountable for that. I am not sanguine about what's going to happen in Wisconsin by way of accountability of this public employee union. This is disgraceful activity. This is not what unions are about. I used to be a member of a union, and I love unions. I think they serve a very valuable purpose in American society. This, however, is not one of the purposes. This is thuggery, absolute, pure thuggery, and it is illegal and it is criminal.
All right, Joe. Good to talk to you as always. We'll do it again next week, okay?
Thanks, guys.
Joe Digenova, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia and our legal expert here on WMAL.